Hi, I'm Sherry McGill, and you're watching Lessons Learned. Hi, welcome to Monday Quilt Chat. How was your weekend? Here we are again on Monday, checking in to see what we have to chat about quilt-wise today. And over the weekend I did get my table topper done, but I'm going to save it for Friday. Sorry. When I get something completely done, I just want to save it for finish it Friday because that's the purpose of that video. But it turned out great, and I did my free motion quilting on there this weekend. A lesson learned on that was I ran out of my spray base that I like. Well, I didn't run out. My can went defunct on me. It had plenty left in it to do it, but the spray nozzle, I did everything I could with that. I put hot soapy water on it. I took a toothpick and dug out the crusty stuff. I let it sit in rubbing alcohol for days. And I did get it to actually spray out, but the sprayer itself would keep falling off. So I'm like, I don't have time for this. I hate that this whole can is probably going to be trashed, because that stuff is not cheap. So I used a different glue base that I had. It wasn't even really for quilting. It was for adhering fabric to other surfaces. So needless to say, that did a number on my needle. I should say needles, because I went through a couple of needles on it. For that small a project, that's not good. But lesson is that don't use spray base that's not for the intended purpose. But you know how we are. We want to get things done, and we want to not have to run out to the store. And also, I don't know if Walmart carries it. It might. But my Joann's is moving right now. So I don't even know if there's a store open to get some new spray base. I'll probably just have to go online and buy me a new can. But anyway, don't do that. Don't do what I did. So that's what this channel is about. Don't do what I do. Sometimes. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about that. I did get it done as I said I would on Friday, just in the nick of time. On Saturday night, I got it done really late. So, yeah, lesson learned. Also, what else? I lay things around for you guys for me to grab and talk about on Mondays. So I don't know if I have everything over here or not. Oh, right behind me you see my She Who Sews. I'll tell you the lesson learned on that. That was a fun project. I enjoyed that. And doing that circular quilting was fun. At Retreat, I learned that there is actually an attachment that you can get for your machine that will do those circles. You attach it somehow to your shank thing here, or you take your shank off and attach it somehow, and it'll make those circles for you. All you have to do is just get it going and just kind of guide it a little bit, and it'll do it for you. But it was kind of expensive, and I did find it cheaper online. I might get it someday, but it's about $100. So if I'm going to do that on a regular basis, I might invest in that. I'm not just ready right now to buy it. But I made it through doing it my way, and it looks nice. The only thing I would say, let me adjust the camera up, and I'll go over there and see if I can show you what I want to show you. Okay, if you look at it, I'm going to act like the old-time teacher here. If you look at it right here, I have a little bit of a bow. And I think the reason why that is, two reasons. One is this quilting here with this circle, this big circle, it goes all the way up here. And that quilting is only 3/8 of an inch apart. Here I'm doing a wavy line, and those are about 1.5 inches apart. It varies, 1 inch to 1.5 inches, sometimes maybe 2 inches. Well, that caused, since that's a looser quilting there, and this is tight, there's a spider right there. This is bigger than this. So probably, and also I have one of those circles here. It goes to about right there. It tightens up there. So really that shrunk down, especially this, the size of my quilt. That whole big circle there, it spans from here all the way around. So that's tight. And so it pulled in the size of the quilt, whereas where I did it looser, it stayed a normal size. So it's bowed out just a little bit right here. I'm fine with it, and if I would have stopped after that and really checked the measurement again, I could have squared that down. Square it down? I don't know if that's the term I need to use, but I could have straightened that. I would have lost a little bit here, but it probably would have come out a more uniform size. I hope you're able to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, and then I had the waves that went through here, and then I had some tight quilting through her head and hair and around that may have factored into it as well. Not as much, I don't think, because it was such a small area. But that's something to consider when we're doing this. That if you combine different types of quilting, tightness of quilting, density of quilting, you may need to make a check before you do your binding, just to see if your sides are, you know, the size of your quilt is uniform. So I would have had a chance to fix that had I noticed it, but I didn't notice it. But it's fine. I like it just fine. It's off just a little bit, and you know, I'm just going to hang it on the wall here somewhere and enjoy it for myself, and it's fine. But a lesson learned. Another lesson learned that I knew, something that I knew I just kind of forgot, and this was during the retreat as well. You know how I'm doing these blocks here for the shimmer quilt class that I had. Let me pull one off. Seemed to matter a lot on this quilt. I don't know why, but here's my first block that I did. Of course, I was using a different machine. I was using somebody else's ruler on some of my cutting. I had a ruler, but I didn't have a long enough one for my cutting, and I borrowed someone else's. And a different cutting mat. You know, all those things may have factored into this, but I was having some trouble getting this to match up good. I'm going to show you the back here. This top piece here that runs from here to here is attached to the second section, and then there's a smaller row down below equal to the top row. And this little section right here is what got me, because it wasn't matching up very well to this bigger piece here. And that's because I should have used a scant 1/4 inch seam on my vertical seams, because this portion didn't have vertical seams, too many. So yeah, that doesn't match up as well. I got it fixed somewhat while I was there. I had to undo a little bit and fix some things so that, you know, it come out good. Looks fine now. But I thought I would talk today a little bit about scant 1/4 inch seams. Now, some patterns are very good. Some quilt patterns are very good to say when to use a scant 1/4 inch seam. And when it says to do that, do that. But there's a lot of patterns that really I guess they assume that you know that you should do this. Use a scant 1/4 inch seam here, but not there. So I looked up some stuff on it. And the purpose basically of a scant 1/4 inch seam is to make that line up better. When you have a row with a lot of vertical seams and another row that goes with it that doesn't have a lot of vertical seams, you got to use a scant 1/4 inch on those vertical seams. I found a particular blogger. The blog is cottonandjoy, all one word, .com. And I like the way she explained it and illustrated it. I say she, I think it's a she. She had an article here, September 9th, 2019. If you want to find this article, just put in your search scant 1/4 inch seam, and this selection will come up in your search, cottonandjoy.com, and this particular article. And I want to read some of it to you first, and then I'm going to demonstrate what she did. It says, generally speaking, in quilting, as long as your 1/4 inch seam allowance is consistent, you're good to go. Now that's talking about when you sew it. Generally speaking, it said, you have to be consistent with your 1/4 inch seams. We all know that, don't we? However, some patterns, due to the sheer number of seams they have, you'll need to have a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what is it and why does it matter? Why is a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance important? Because when you press your seams, whether they're pressed open or to the side, you lose a little bit of fabric to the thread width and fold after pressing your seams. Now I feel like you've probably noticed, and I've said many times, I like to press my seams open. I'm just kind of old school that way. Having a garment sewing background, opening the seams is just kind of the rule of thumb for me. But whether you do it that way or you do it to one side, like pressing to the dark side, you're going to lose a little bit of the size of your little piece of fabric. So a scant 1/4 inch seam takes this loss of fabric into account so that the dimensions of your blocks stay true. That's what I was just trying to say. In most patterns, this minimal loss doesn't matter. However, given the number of parallel seams in some patterns, the scant seam allowance does come into play. And she gave an example from one of her patterns. It says the pattern has 6 vertical and 6 horizontal seams. This means that even if you lose only 1/32 to 1/16 of an inch, that's almost a 1/4 inch that you would lose in either direction. That's because there's 6 of them. So if you lose a 32nd or a 16th from having, sewn them together and pressed them either open or to one side, you're going to lose a 1/4 inch over 6 of them. That matters. Imagine having a 1/4 inch extra or less from one row to the other. It says finding your scant 1/4 inch. So how do you find your scant seam allowance? It's a matter of testing and moving your needle's position until it's just right. She said cut 4 to 6 2.5 inch squares from your scraps. Doesn't matter what it is. It's just a test. Sew the squares together in a row. Use your 1/4 inch foot or whatever other reference you use on your machine. It could be on the plate, the metal plate there on your sewing machine bed. It could be seam tape. It could be painter's tape that you've measured over from the bottom of your needle to one side, or washi tape, whatever it is that you're using. A 1/4 inch foot, a 1/4 inch foot with a fence, whatever. She says once your squares are all together, press your seams whichever way you normally do. Now get a ruler and see what you've got. She says, I sew my 4 squares using the 1/4-inch presser foot that comes with my machine and left the settings on the machine as they are on default with my needle position at 3.5. Now some machines lend themselves more than others to moving your needle position, but with moving that, you have to have another thing in mind about what foot do you have on and where's that needle landing, because otherwise you might end up breaking your needles. So you can't just arbitrarily pick a spot and then move over a 1/4 inch and lay your tape or whatever. You have to take a few other things into consideration. It says the squares that you put together with the 1/4 inch, in theory, should add up to 8.5, but they're in fact almost a 1/4 inch smaller. You can see the issue starts with the very first seam that you make. It's just short of 2.25, meaning the seam allowance is too wide, eating up too much of the fabric. This error compounds the more seams there are, making the whole roll too small. So I did that. I took 4 2.5-inch squares and sewed them together, and then I have an 8.5-inch piece that I'm sewing it to. So this is a reality here. You know, you got 4 2.5-inch blocks, you're using 1/4 inch seam allowances, and then you have an 8.5-inch strip, which in theory that should go together perfectly. But if you do a full 1/4 inch on these, that is not going to fit that 8.5 piece when you get done. You have to do a scant. So what is a scant? A scant is either moving your needle position a little bit, or learning what a 2 or 3 thread widths is on your actual fabric. And that's what I did. I kind of looked at my fabric and I can see, and you might have to get a magnifying glass out or put your reading glasses on and see what 2 or 3 threads on the weave of your fabric is, and then move that over to the left so that you're making your seam allowance just a little bit less than 1/4 inch. So I did that on these seams before I started, and then when I put my 8.5-inch piece underneath before I sewed it on, it was perfect, absolutely perfect. So just remember that if you've got vertical seams on a piece that has to go onto a piece that has no extra seams, or less, you know, maybe it has 1 or 2, then you're going to have to mentally remember to use a scant, because sometimes the pattern doesn't tell you to use a scant 1/4 inch. It should. In theory, it should. A good pattern writer would do that, would put that in there for you. But that's just something to kind of remember. That's a kind of part of your skill set that you need to have for quilting, is to remember those scant vertical seams going up against another solid piece. Do that, and it's more likely that it's going to fit. Now, if you forget, you know, you might have a couple of them you did a scant and one you didn't. So when you go to put these two together, it's just a little bit off. And you can stretch it just a little bit. But just remember that every time you stretch your fabric to fit, you're going to cause a bow somewhere. I forget which side it's going to happen on. But it's going to cause a little bubble on the surface. Not a pleat. Just a little bulge, a little bit of airspace happens. So If you're just making a quilt top and you're just going to hem it and use it as a non-quilted quilt top, like for a tablecloth or some sort of little flat thing, you might be able to see that little bump. More than likely, if you put batting and a backing and quilt it, it's never going to show up. So that makes it okay. But with something just that quilt top only as a layer, it could be detrimental if you don't do it. But you know, there's some amazing things you can do with starch as well. So it depends on what you're using it for. So, you know, quilting is, I hesitate to say it's an exact science, but the more exact that we can be with our cutting and our seam allowance widths, the better end result you're going to have. So, little lesson there. I kind of forgot about that in all the ruckus of being at the retreat. It was there, I just didn't bring it up. So I thought this might be a good time to talk to you all about that too. Just a friendly reminder, and maybe you learned something too that you didn't know before. I got in the mail my Sew Yeah Basics box. Do you want to see that? If you want to see that, stick around here. If not, zip on through. At the end here, I'm going to have a tour of the Sew Yeah Quilting Store inserted. So just skip on over to that, and don't look at the box portion, or skip it all together so you don't see it. So if you don't want to see the newest Sew Yeah quilt box, it's the October one, don't look. But here it is. Here it is. This is not an unboxing. I've already looked at it. So we got some wild and crazy fabric in here. Look at this. This is fairy frost, y'all. I wish you could see it shining. Can you see that shining? This right here is heavily encrusted with fairy frost. It's fancy. And then these three, I really like this one. I really like it. I hope it's shining for you, because it's very glittery. And supposedly that's woven in. It's not something that you can, you know, flick off. It's a lot more shiny than you're seeing it, I'm pretty sure. I really like that one. And the white's pretty too. You could make a wedding dress out of this. It's that pretty, even though it's cotton. And then there's one that's real soft. It doesn't seem to have the glitteriness to it. And it's a little bit iridescent. Do you see how it's kind of purple almost? Or like a mother of pearl? Anyway, there was two projects. You know, when you get this box, you get a little card that has a QR code on it. And you scan that with your phone, and it takes you right to the video of the project to tell you how to do it. And I think there's in the description box of said video, there's a set of instructions on how to make the projects. There's two projects. They also gave a spool of thread, which is a combination of maybe white, gray, and black. It's number 4665. There's a dad joke, and there's a sticker. The sticker's cute. And there is a ruler grip. I haven't taken this out of the package. Let's do it. It's got two little suction cups on it. Let me see. Let's see what this might be good on. Here's my 2.5. I use this for strips. Doesn't want to fall off. How do you get it off? Oh yeah, you just stick your fingernail under there and it comes off. Here's another ruler. This one's a little heavier. Let me see. pretty strong. This is by Eversewn. It's cute. I always like that aqua color for stuff. Yeah, that's it. That's that. So I didn't think I'd like this. I think I saw it on before I even got it. No, I didn't see it. Somebody else did an unboxing. But I opened mine before I saw the unboxing. So I was like, what in the world are we going to do with this? Because the video wasn't out yet. Not my style at all, but I have an idea. We'll save that for someday. Someday. Lots of projects always, so you never know when you're going to see one of my projects crop back up again or not. Okay, so I am going to go ahead. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. Well, I always have something to talk about, but let me go ahead and put that footage in here of the tour of the store. Hopefully it's not too long. Probably less than 10 minutes. Probably more like 5-7 minutes. And then after that, I'll come back and say goodbye. Hi, look where I am. Sew Yeah Quilting in Las Vegas, Nevada. Alright, I'm going to turn the camera around and just sort of give you a tour of everything here. Let me turn it to a different setting so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay, there's the sign. It's on a very busy street. I'll show you. This is the street. This is Rainbow Boulevard or Rainbow Drive, not sure. It's about lunchtime, not quite, so there's not a whole lot of traffic right now. But it's a very busy street when it gets to be 3 to 5 o'clock and beyond. So here is the building. It's a standalone building. It used to be a consignment furniture shop. It has a dock in the back where they receive their deliveries. And let's go inside and see what we can find. Coming through the front door. This is the cutting table and the checkout, and they cut the fabric right in front of you. Just give you a wide view of the entrance here. This store is huge. It's the biggest quilt store that I've ever been in. This is a Moxie. A Moxie to practice on. Hopefully they'll let me play with it here in a minute. On this side we have thread, Aurifil, Sacord, sewing machines. I'd love to sit in front of each sewing machine and show you how it works, but that would take a week at least. Janome, Bernina's. Here are some Brother, Sergers, every kind of accessory you need for them. It's a cool quilt. Like it. Here's a luxury Brother Luminaire XP3 with a Disney theme. Here's a Brother also. Enovis with embroidery. Beautiful. Not going to show you the retreat yet. Here's another cool quilt. Okay. Okay, every sort of fabric you can imagine. Here's all the blenders, grunge, ombre, glass beads, you name it. It's here. The store is absolutely full of fabric. Mostly arranged by color groupings. Over on this side where the patterns are, there are a few round tables with lines of fabric. This is Art Gallery or Moda. Seasonal. Back quarters. Layer cakes, jelly rolls. They have those around the entire store. Just kind of strategically placed. There's Liberty, I guess. Let me see. Yeah, Liberty fabrics. Every color you can imagine. Over here we have some other blenders. We have Notions. I always thought on their video that the Notion section really didn't look that big, but in person you can tell there's everything. Wave, Linda. Stitch of pennies. And then this is our happy place, which is the discount room, sale room, and we have ransacked it pretty much. It's like leftover de-stash stuff, but there's a lot of it. Now if you just head through here, there's more and more rows and rows of fabric, food fabric, novelty fabric. All the categories of fabric for different times of year. The end of every aisle has something on it usually. And then these are more theme fabrics. And then this back wall back here is all batiks arranged by color. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. It's black and white, brown and cream, green and blue, purple. Here's our photo opportunity booth.
Did you find her?
No, I can't find her.
This is the retreat. Utter controlled chaos. Say hi, Debbie. Who wants to say hi?
Everybody okay?
We're okay. And then all these nice ladies are making sure we're okay. There goes Zach. He's always on the move. Anybody want to say hi?
Someday I'm going to upgrade my machine.
Donna, say hi.
But it works.
Oh, look what she's doing. Free motion quilting. Wow, that's intricate. Nice job. Here's Auntie El Handmade. Say hi. Jessica Roca. Are you having fun?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. You want to say hi?
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Jennifer Gomez.
No. What are we doing? Because you sew by row.
You're going to be on TV.
So you sew half your hexie and your other half.
Oh, why am I on TV?
And then you sew rows.
I have a channel.
Oh. So that's also
So
the
there's
same,
no
the same
license at all.
concept.
They do have it.
Okay, getting out of here. Be back soon. Okay, I hope that enlightened you a little bit about what the store is like and what the area is like out there. Nice and warm and nice and dry, and sun out every day. So it was a nice trip. Enjoyed it. I hope I get to go back in February for their next retreat. All right, so you guys get everything done this week that you need to get done, and if you don't get done, don't worry about it, but do something. And don't worry about your dirty sewing machine and your dirty, well, you probably should worry about your dirty sewing machine, but don't worry about your dirty sewing area. If it's a mess, just sew right on top of it and get back to that mess another day. Soon I'll have a video out about planning and scheduling time, and we'll get some tips and tricks on how to get more done in less time in the future. So hopefully by the first of the year I'll have that ready for you. It sounds like a long time away, but it is not. So let's get busy and get our projects going, keep them moving, and get some done. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday for the Vintage Mystery Block, and on Friday for Finish It Friday. All right, have a great week. Bye.